Okay. Hello, everyone. So where is everyone tuning in from today? Just let me know in the chat. I am literally going to be jumping into my truck and jetting out to Pennsylvania as soon as we hang up today. So I am thrilled to be with you. This week it's funny. We get input and feedback from all kinds of places, and I received an email this week where someone shared the story about lobsters, and I had totally forgotten all about this, but I was reminded this week just how lobsters, when they outgrow their shells and they get too big to fit into that shell, how things get really tight and they have to shed that outer layer in order to be able to grow and move on. And so it just got me thinking, like, okay, so ladies, have you ever felt like you've outgrown your life and you're now living like this place where you're living in tension, like no longer can live in the past, you don't have the future laid out yet, and you might just be in that place where you're just too stuck to change. Have you ever felt like that? Well, that's what we're talking about today. So, welcome back to Making Life Beautiful again. I'm Michelle Rose, and I'm just so thrilled to be with you today. We're going to be diving into a topic that is very close to my heart, and it might actually hit home for so many of you. We've been talking about identity and discovering what your identity is, and how today we're going to be kind of going through how to push through the resistance, the thing that keeps us from really truly walking that identity out. And it's a very uncomfortable feeling. It just kind of makes you want to crawl back into that shell, and because we don't often like to live outside of our comfort zone. So that's what we're talking about today. I want you to know today, at the end of today, that that resistance can actually be your best friend. Um, so we'll be talking about how it can be a sign that you're actually on the right path, how to embrace that discomfort, and that discomfort, that's what tells you growth is right ahead, and most importantly, how to unleash that inner strength that helps you rediscover that identity and that true self in midlife, and how to really just push through. And I want you to know that you don't have to lose your edge. You don't have to lose yourself to get into this process where you learn how to push that past that resistance. It can actually be quite fun. So by the end of this episode, you'll have a fresh perspective on what resistance even means, how it can be your best friend, how to even step out of those comfort zones and gain that confidence, to face whatever challenges or whatever growth or goal or plans and dreams you have ahead. Because I want you to be able to learn how to break from the old, how to step into the new with that clarity, that purpose, that new vision, and that passion. We all have that passion within us, and I want to help you just get in touch with that and get your mojo back. So this episode is for anyone who has felt like they're losing touch with themselves or already have lost touch with themselves, don't even know who you really are, who's ready to stop playing games, playing by everyone else's rules, and wants to really just go after those dreams, and with even grace, right? With confidence and grace. So stick around, because we're just about to dive deep on this very uncomfortable but yet exciting and fun topic so that you can live your best life. So if you have a friend who you think would really love this episode, go ahead and contact them now. Send them the link. Let them get in on this to join you right now, because we all need each other to start living this life. Okay, so let's now talk about that little voice in our head. The one that says, who do you think you are? Whenever we experience change or we know change is coming up, there's often this imposter syndrome, or this, do I really know how to do this? Can I really do this? What will people think of me? Or am I strong enough to handle this? Do I even want this? That's the voice of resistance right there. And it's something that we all face, especially when you're moving into a new season, especially one as big as finally walking out your identity and getting your mojo back and regaining those passions and dreams. So I'm sure you have felt it. Every time you want to break free from that mold, and you all of a sudden feel this thing just always pulling you back. Speaking of lobsters, I'm sure you've heard this, and I may have even mentioned it, I think, in a previous episode, but lobsters have this way of when you have the bucket, I don't know if you've ever gone lobster to catch lobsters, but you throw them in this bucket. And what they do is as they start trying to climb out, the other lobsters from the bottom will start pulling that lobster back down. And so that's what we're talking about. There's always something just pulling you down, pulling you back, keeping you from that breakthrough. And you start even questioning yourself, like doubting your decisions, doubting, wondering if it's just safer to stay where you are. I know what that feels like. And I mean, trust me, I've been there. It's so tempting, right? To just crawl back into the shell, stay in our comfort zone, stay in the bucket. And then what ends up happening? You get cooked. You can't stay there. You just can't stay there. So when I first started my journey on embracing my identity, I felt that resistance at every turn. Um, it was like this invisible force that just was always pushing against me, there was this tug of war always happening inside of me, always. I wanted something more. I knew there was something more, yet I was afraid of what it took to get there. That I couldn't figure it out, or that I wouldn't do it right, or that I would look silly trying. And I remember it just feeling super uncomfortable. And it's so I told you my journey started out with my fashion statements and what I would wear. And so it was kind of like walking around with shoes that were 2 sizes too small all the time. It was like, am I doing this right? you know and but what's really neat is once I realized, and this is important, the resistance wasn't there to stop me. It was there to build my strength, my courage, and everything to push me into that next season. It was there to show me that I was on the verge of something really great and really new and really powerful. And it was telling me that I was ready to level up. And that's what I want to do today. So here's the thing: resistance, it's a natural part of the growth process. Think about that lobster for a minute. As it's growing, things start getting tighter and tighter and tighter. And eventually it gets so uncomfortable, it has to shed that shell. That old shell, it's not serving them anymore. It has no purpose anymore. In fact, it will kill them if they stay inside that shell. And so they have to step out of that shell to make room for the next one, the new one. And during that process, the lobster is completely exposed. It's vulnerable, and it can feel scary. You don't know if you're now going to be prey from the predator, but this is a necessary part of growth, and we go through the same process. Our shells could be that limiting belief or that comfort zone, or even those old habits that aren't serving you anymore in this season. And once we start to outgrow them, it gets too tight. We start getting suffocated. We feel that tension, and it's really uncomfortable to stay there. And but here's the cool part. In this discomfort, this is where the magic happens. Because if you're feeling this resistance right now, it's just a sign. It's a sign that you're on the right track. You're growing, you're evolving, you're stepping into a new phase. That's the fun part, right? And it's going to be uncomfortable, but that's okay. This is your moment. You're about to step into that next place, that next position where you level up, and it's going to be freedom. You're not going to be stuck in that tight, awful shell anymore. And you're going to be making room for something new. And today I want you to think about where you're feeling the most resistance in your life. Is it in your career, or is it in a relationship? Do you have a goal that you're feeling resistance where you might be too afraid to chase down that goal? I'm sure you've heard of it. There's this new term called goal chasers, and I have become a fan. I used to be terrified because of all the things that it meant I would have to learn or become or try and maybe fail. But whatever it is, I want to challenge you today to lean into that resistance instead of running from it, and go ahead and embrace it. Find out that on the other side, there's growth and freedom. There's something amazing that's been waiting for you, and you've been waiting for it. But let's get real. So, who actually really enjoys being uncomfortable? And I know that's a silly question, but this weekend I was helping people do a closet clean out. And it's like there were certain clothes you love the way they look, but when you try them on, they're scratchy or they're too tight or too loose. They're uncomfortable. And many of us we feel that in our lives where something's just not fitting right. It's scratching us, it's irritating us. But here's the truth, that discomfort you're feeling, it's not your enemy. It's your best friend. It's telling you something. And I want you to think about maybe a time where you were on the verge of something new, whether it was a big decision, a life change, you were stepping into a new role, maybe becoming a mom. I mean, I know when you're pregnant, there's no turning back, right? You have to get to the delivery day and start raising that kid. And it's terrifying, it's uncomfortable, but it's so easy to mistake this feeling that we have um, for sign that something's going wrong, because it's that same exact feeling that you have when something really bad is about to happen. Your heart's pounding out of your chest. Your mind is racing because something you've got to figure it out. Um, you know, Growth never happens in that comfort zone. And so these feelings that you feel when something is telling you something's wrong, it's actually not wrong. It's just telling you you're uncomfortable and you're going to figure it out. You're going to figure it out. It's going to be okay. And here's the cool part. It's just like muscles, they have to be stretched, they have to be worked out. You have to do the hard work to get stronger. You have to strain them. And we have to go through periods of discomfort where you have to strain yourself to move into that next level, to have that body that you want, right? To have the life that you want. It's during these times that God is calling us to step out. We got to step out of that boat to find the real thing on the other side. And he's asking us to trust him in a deeper level. And so here he's laid out the carpet for us. He makes it very easy if we're willing to step out of the boat. So I want you to embrace that journey today where you get to step out of the boat. And I want to just real quickly read 2 Corinthians 12:9. Let me find it real quick. Okay, it says, where Paul says, my grace is sufficient for you, for my power is made perfect in weakness. This verse, it's there to remind us that it's in our weaknesses that he is made great. It's in those weak places where God gets to come in and shine in our lives, and he gets to do miracles. And I'm going to tell you, I'd much rather live a supernatural life that's filled with a little bit of uncomfortable than a natural one where I never get to see who God is in my life. You know, it's that stepping out of faith that allows him to work in us in the most powerful of ways. So when you're feeling uncomfortable, don't run from it. And I'm gonna say this so many times because this is the most important lesson here, is that you get this perspective that resistance and that tension is not something to be afraid of. It's not something to run from, but you're to lean into it. Recognize that it's the discomfort that's stretching you and challenging you, but it's also preparing you for that next phase of life. And it's in these moments that you're being refined and strengthened and learning what it's going to take to do the next thing, to build the structure for the next life you want to live. And I hope that today's message, it's helping you to actually reframe how you see discomfort and resistance, because instead of avoiding it, you're going to start seeing it as a sign of like, yeah, baby, let's take it on, right? I want to see myself in a position where when I see that resistance and I see the giant that's standing in front of me, I'm like, come on, I'm ready for you, because I know something great is on the other side. David, he had to fight the giant to become a king. Like, he had to do all these things of discomfort, and they prepared him for what it took to live out his destiny and calling. So embrace it, trust it, know that God is totally working you in, like, for the good. It's he's leading you to a better you so that you can reflect who he is everywhere you go. And this is what you've been longing for. I mean, David, I don't know what, I can't speak for him, but when he had that prophetic word that he was going to become king, it was many, many, many years. And I'm sure in his human nature, he probably doubted it at times, but I'm certain that after a while he even longed for it, but he didn't take things in his own hands, right? He just took each day, each step, and moved forward. And that's what I'm just asking you to do today. So let's go ahead and talk about that scary moment, though, because the one where you're standing on the edge of something new, your heart's racing, you're wondering, do I really have what it takes? Do I really want to step out of my comfort zone? Will I drown? You know, these are the questions that we ask ourselves when we feel our heart pounding and that trepidation. And that's the leap of faith moment. And I've come to love this moment. And it's where that magic happens. You know, let's be honest, because the most exciting things in life, you know, often start with a little bit of fear. You know, that's why they call it an adventure. Life is an adventure. And it's natural to feel fear when you're about to step into an unknown. It just really is, right? You don't know what's on the other side, but we've all been there, second guessing ourselves, feeling that lump in our throat, imagining all the things that could go wrong. But here's the thing, every great story, every incredible journey starts with a leap of faith. And your life is no different. So, taking a leap of faith isn't about having it all figured out, though. I want to make that very clear. Every time I've made a step in my life, I had no idea where I was going. So, you don't have to figure it out before you take the leap of faith. In fact, taking that leap of faith is usually doing it before you can see what's ahead. But it is all about trusting, right? All about trusting what God knows. God knows what's on the other side. He knows what you need, and He knows that you have everything you need to do this thing. And He's calling you to step out into that faith, not because it's easy, but because you are worth it. Okay. Like He knows that you need this, you want this, the world needs this, and the world wants this. You know, so remember, God doesn't promise the journey it's going to be easy, but He does promise to be with you every step of the way. So Psalms 46:1 says, God is our refuge and strength, an ever-present help in trouble. So this verse, it's one of my favorites. It's so powerful. It's a reminder that even when we feel exposed and uncertain, God is our safe place. We're in the shadow of His wings, right? So it means that even when we're flying and soaring, we're still under His wing. We're still protected. He's our strength when we are weak, and He guides us when we feel lost. Okay. So you're taking that next step. You may not know where you're going. You may feel lost. That leap of faith, it's not about being fearless. It's about knowing who is stepping with you. And that's a big one, right? So let's go back to that lobster analogy because it's so funny. I have come this year to enjoy lobster more than I have in the past. We used to go crabbing and lobstering when I was younger, and I just thought they were like really gross critters. I liked what came out of them, but I just didn't like them. But, I've come to really love the analogies and the stories that come with them. So when the lobster it sheds its shell, it doesn't exactly know what's going to happen next. It just knows that it was too tight and too uncomfortable to stay. That's pure and simple. But it's in this vulnerable and exposed place that, and in the place where it takes this risk, that it realizes it's growing and it needs to grow. And we're the same way. Sometimes we don't even know that we need this growth or we need this thing until we're forced out of it. And then we're in the middle of that uncomfortable, vulnerable place. And all of a sudden we're exposed to our weaknesses where we need to grow. And so we may not have all the answers, but we have that trust that it's necessary for our growth. And just like this lobster, we get to emerge stronger, more resilient, and bigger. So here's what I want you to remember. That leap of faith, it isn't about having all the answers. We said that, but it's something that our brain often doesn't figure out because our human nature wants us to have all the answers before we do the thing that's scary. And that's our brain's way of protecting us. It's been that way since the beginning of time. But if we could retrain our brains to know that we can trust in God in these places, then that trigger that keeps us from running, it doesn't engage. And so it's about believing that what's waiting for you on that other side when the Lord is leading you there, it's far greater than what you're leaving behind. He always has promises for something better. when he's asking you to leave something else. And it's about stepping out with that courage. You know, I do another podcast with my husband called the Beauty Hunters Podcast, and we did an entire episode about courage. And it's funny because we often think we have to muster up this mountain of courage to be able to do the thing. But what I discovered is it really only takes about 20 seconds of courage. If you can start the thing, then it's almost like that momentum. It rolls you into it. It's like that avalanche. All it takes is the few little things, and all of a sudden you're rolling down the hill. So that's what happens here. When you know that you're exposed and you know that you're not alone, it's like all of a sudden everything starts rolling into place, and you can trust that God's with you. And it's really, really fun. And I've said this before, it's like getting on that roller coaster. I grew up on roller coasters, just so you know. My first roller coaster ride was when I was 4 years old. So like, I love talking about roller coasters, but you get on that roller coaster and the trepidation, the fear, but once you're locked in, you can't get off. You've made the decision. So you get there and you get to the top, and then all of a sudden you go down and you're like, this is flipping amazing. Why didn't I do this before? I'm going to do it again, right? Like that's exactly what this is like. And I know it can feel like lip service by me just telling you this over and over without you experiencing it, but once you do, you're going to totally call me and be like, Michelle, you were so right. So I want you to this week to identify one area, just one. Don't overwhelm yourself. You don't need to go gung-ho crazy on it all, but where you need to take a leap of faith. And it could be in your career, your relationships, your family, your personal goals, your finances, wherever it is, wherever you've been putting something off, take that step. Trust God to meet you there, and he'll grab your hand and leap with you. So don't worry about the discomfort. But in our final segment, we're going to go ahead and talk about what happens after you take that leap, how to build those structures in place that support you and that help you thrive while you're growing. That lobster, he doesn't stay exposed forever. He actually gets a new shell. And so that's what we're talking about when you get that newfound identity, how you build the house for the place that you're going to be growing. Okay, so we've taken the leap of faith. Woo, right? You've stepped out of your comfort zone. Way to go. Now you're ready to grow. And now what? That's the part that sometimes when we've jumped off the cliff, we're like, oh, shoot, I didn't bring the parachute. Now what? And how do you make sure that this new version of yourself is going to thrive? When you take a walk out in the wilderness, you're going to make sure you have some water bottles and some shelter and all those things. So that's what we're going to talk about, building those structures to protect you. But after making this big change, it's easy to feel a little bit lost, like you're floating without direction. And you are for a little while because you're figuring it out. You're discovering what it means. And so you've shed that old shell, and now you need something new to grow into, and it doesn't happen overnight. And this is where so many people struggle and give up. They take that big leap and they start, but they don't finish. And how do you set up that support structure that's going to help you thrive through all this? I don't know if you guys have read John Acuff's books. He's got a book called Start and Finish, and I love it because he started with the book Start, and he realized a lot of people start, but they don't know how to finish. And so then he wrote Finish. And that Finish book really, really helped me grow, actually. So go ahead and go find it because it's really good. But these new frameworks, sorry for the tangent, these new frameworks in our lives, they're there to support us as we grow. And this means restructuring your day-to-day routines, or redefining your goals, or letting go of old relationships or old habits or old mindsets that aren't serving you or no longer fitting you anymore. And so here's what we're gonna go ahead and break it down, because first, you have to evaluate your current structures, right? Take a look at your current routines, your habits, your relationships, your mindsets. Do they support the person that you are becoming or that you want to become? Are they holding you back? And then you need to set your clear goals. Okay. I'm sure you've heard of SMART goals, right? Specific, measurable, all that stuff. What do you want to achieve in this new phase of your life? Set the goals that are going to align with your true identity and the growth that you're pursuing. And I'll have more episodes on that later, but these are just helping you now. And you can also book a call with me and we can set up a coaching session where I help you do all of this. Um, you're going to create new routines, establish daily routines that help you stay on track and focused, whether it's a morning routine, if you're a morning person, or a nighttime routine, if you're a night person, it's going to set the tone for your day. Do regular check-ins with an accountability person and with yourself through journaling. These all become the new shell that you're growing into. So, and then I touched on this, but you're going to let go of things that no longer serves you. Um, Growth almost always requires you to let go of something to release something else out of your life to make room for the new thing. And this could mean, so when I'm talking about old habits and mindsets, let me just give you an example. So like, the episode where I talk to you about living small. I'm a very tall person. And so the mindset of training myself to live small and hidden and all the things, it wasn't serving me. So when I decided that I wanted to step into that bold person that I am, the person who is confident, who knows what she wants and who she is, and is willing to speak up for things that matter, I had to let go of that mindset and all the training that I had developed over the years to live small. I had to, it's like software. I had to like unload this software and reload this new software that said, it's okay to speak up. It's okay to dress boldly. It's okay to stand tall, right? And it's not always easy, but it is necessary to do these things. So after you take this big leap of faith, these structures are there to protect you for the next season. Because so when you're a baby, when you step in a toddler, it's a new season. Then when you step into school, elementary school, it's a new season. Then when you step into middle school, it's a new season. And when you start off in kindergarten, you're new, you're weak, you're vulnerable, you're learning, right? By the time you made it to first grade, all the things that you did in kindergarten are easy. It's old hat. That was yesterday, right? But that's what I'm talking about. You've got to have this protective place while you're learning, while you're developing, while you're building. Then there's going to be a part where that will feel easy, and then you'll be moving into another place. And so don't be overwhelmed with the new changes. Just let the old patterns go so that you create space for learning the new things. And don't be afraid to restructure your life. It can feel a little weird to go, I think I need to move to Tennessee, or I think I'm going to downsize and live as a nomad in an RV. Like I had to do that, or I chose to do that. I actually wanted to do that. But, you know, it was the life I wanted to live. It's the identity I want to be. I want to be this person. And so you will have to restructure some things in order to be the person you want to be. And you're going to have to teach people in your life what you're doing. And that feels weird to have those conversations. They feel vulnerable, but they love you. They support you. They want you to have the wildest dreams that you have ever created in your mind. They want you to have it. And so they want you to have the life that reflects who you are inside, where you're going. But setting up these right structures, it's not only there for you to survive and protect you, it's there so you can thrive. And so I want you to take time today to evaluate the structures in your life. What needs to change? What needs to go? What gets to stay? What routines do you want to develop and you need to develop to be the person you want to be? How do you want to eat? How do you want to do your hair? How do you want to dress? Um, all of these things, you need to set things in place to support where you're going and what you're going to experience. Start making those new changes this week, um, and watch how they make you flourish. Once you make this little baby change, it's going to make you giddy inside. So all that trepidation you felt and fear, once you start stepping into it, all of a sudden it's going to be replaced with those butterfly, like, ooh, I'm excited. I can't believe it. This is happening. I'm really doing it. I've dreamed about it forever. Like that new found identity, it's going to start taking shape. And as we wrap up this series, I want you to remember that growth, it's a journey, it's not a destination. You get to change your mind. You get to practice and find out you don't like this or you do like this, but you've done the hard work to step out in faith, embracing that discomfort. And so now it's time to build that support system in order to protect you and help push you, keep momentum behind you, no matter where you're at on this journey. And so, this journey that we've taken over the last couple of weeks, learning your identity of words and how to walk them out, how to overcome um, that fear and the self-doubt and all of that. We've talked about a lot of really great things and why the resistance and discomfort's there to support you and help you in your growth. It's your biggest ally. This leap of faith that you were about to take in midlife, it's perfect timing. You're no longer living in the old, you're not yet living in the future, and somewhere you're in this little magical place where you get to start taking care of you. You get to start figuring out who you are again in this new season. And so, you know, I'm so excited because we're closing up this series, but the next series that we are going to start is just perfect for what I just said, because you're in the best place of your life for a midlife makeover. And so I have so much training about the outer beauty of as you age, how to embrace it in a way that truly reflects who you are on the inside. You don't have to follow trends in magazines. So we'll be covering skincare, face yoga, fashion. I may even try to get my sister on here to help us with some makeup tips. We'll see. Can't make any promises. But you guys, if you're ready to take this journey even further, you with the identity piece, please reach out. I'm here to help guide you, support you. I'd really love to help you. I don't want to leave you behind. I love how the military, they leave no one left behind. That's how I feel. I don't want to leave anyone behind. So reach out for a coaching session and let's work together so that you can live the life of your dreams, the ones you've always dreamed of. And it should be aligned with your identity and your purpose. Don't forget that next week we're going to be kicking off our new series, and I can't wait to dive into this with you. So thank you so much for joining me today. Your journey, it's so unique, and it's really an honor and a privilege to be able to walk this out with you and help you just embrace that full potential. You've already got all the answers inside of you, and so you don't need me, but it's really cool that you let me be a part of that. So definitely remember this week you are called to arise and shine. So get out there, do it, embrace that resistance, keep trusting the process. So until then, you've got this. I'll be cheering you on this week every step of the way, and I hope you have a beautiful day.